Hello everybody, my name is Muhammad Ibrahim and this is my major project video for ENG 1011. And before I talk about what I made, I would like to give a little context first. So I am from Pakistan and I came here in April 2015. And when I came here, I noticed something interesting. Almost every other house in my neighborhood had a security camera or the doorbell cameras. And the crime rate here in Canada is much lower than it was in Pakistan. So it got me wondering, why didn't my house have a security camera in Pakistan? So I asked my parents, and what they basically told me is that security cameras are actually really expensive in Pakistan and they're rarely ever found anywhere. And so when I found out that for my major project I could make anything, I knew that this is what I wanted to work on and this is what I wanted to make. So this is my security system which I have created right here, and ideally I wouldn't want it to be in a shoebox, and ideally it would be in a 3D printed container, but right now I'm out of filament so I couldn't actually 3D print a container for it. So my security system has an ultrasonic sensor, a temperature and humidity sensor, a touch sensor, and a buzzer. And ideally, I would like it to have a carbon monoxide sensor as well, because I think you would not find that in anywhere in any house in Pakistan, right? And I think it's a crucial part to include in it. But the reason I could not include it in it is because the shipping was actually after this project was due. And another thing which I would like to include in a future iteration of this is a Bluetooth sensor, a Bluetooth module, because ideally you wouldn't want it to be connected with a wire, right? You would just want it to be connected with Bluetooth. So I know this doesn't look like the traditional security system, and that is because it isn't, right? The way it is designed is so that it can be placed near doors or windows, and then it can detect when the door has been opened and send you an alarm, or it could detect when someone has crossed the window. For my code, I've used the MATLAB graphical user interface to create an app which the user can use to control and monitor the security system. And as you can see, I have multiple things on my system. And I have the start button, which when I press, it starts the whole system. And as you can see, I have a graph which monitors the values which you're getting. And as you can see, we can't really see the distance right now is because it's greater than 5 centimeters. And for that, I have this slider which I can use to adjust the y-axis. And the reason why I have that here is because the pop-up menu can make you display the temperature graph, which has a different y-axis, so you can adjust the humidity graph, which also has a different y-axis, so you can adjust, right? So you can adjust to different things depending on the situation. And all of these have their own separate function in the MATLAB code, which work together, communicate with each other to create a whole system. And as you can see, I have this edit text, and this is the important part, right? Because let's say if I set this to 10 centimeters, now if anything gets close to it, closer than 10 centimeters, the alarm will start and it will create a noise, and I have to press the touch sensor to stop it. So look, as you can see, I have my calculator, and as soon as it comes closer to 20 centimeters, it starts, and then I have to press it. When you create the MATLAB graphical user phase, some functions are already created which basically set up the user interface, right? Like these functions. And other functions where you have to give them meaning, like the pop-up menu 2 function, where it basically sets up the mode depending on which option it is. So for example, if I choose the temperature graph option on the pop-up menu, it sets the mode to 1, which basically tells my graphing function that I have to graph the temperature graph, right? And I have other functions like other function from the edit, which basically sees what the user has entered, and then I have the function for the slider, which basically gives the value the slider is on. But one of my most important function is the distance calculation function, which basically creates a mathematical model for the distance and time. So you receive the time from the echo pin, right? The ultrasonic sensor sends sound waves and receives them, and we know that distance is velocity multiplied by time. So this is the velocity of the sound in centimeters, and this is the time. But since this is the time to go and come back, we have to divide the velocity by 2 to get the distance. And then this distance is sent to my code, and then my code uses conditional statements to see if the value is lower than whatever I set it to be to turn on the buzzer or not.